I turn that over to Wayne Helgeson.
Well, thank you, Edie, for that wonderful opening, and Eric, thank you for the introduction. Perhaps I'll just start by, I've been asked to do a presentation on Stay It Road as a project, and you will have in your package the financial information. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Wayne Helgeson. I'm an Ojibwe person, member of Sandy Bay First Nation in Manitoba, and I've been honored to live and in some cases work here on Say It for the last 11 years, and I'm proud to be of assistance to the community in any way I can. So when I became the band manager in August of 2000, we were falling into COVID at the time. Can everybody hear me at the back okay? Yes? Okay. We were in the midst of COVID as it was developing, and we still, and I took on the job as band manager at the request of council on an interim basis, and I became very, I really appreciate the staff at the time who helped me to understand how Say It works as a community, and did the best we could to make things start to work and move forward. Not a lot had happened. It was projects hadn't really been completed. So in my first week as a band manager, I did contact ISK Capital and urged that they give consideration to what had been a long-standing, outstanding and long-standing problem, and that was the condition, the deteriorating condition of Say It Road. And so they were compliant. They did indicate that there were projects that had either stopped or weren't going forward because of COVID, but I assured them this is an outside project, we can get the job done. So working with KWL, Elizabeth Lau, Rose Sinnott is here, and Mike, and we issued a tender. 5 companies responded to that tender. We had a notional budget of about $4 million that it was going to cost, and we received a commitment from ISK of $2.5 million. As we'll go through this, and the financial will show you that we actually completed the project for under the $3.2 million. We actually were slightly over $3 million. The project came in on budget and almost on time. But I'll go through the slides. I hope you can all see them. And I'd ask you to reconsider going back to 2020 when we were in COVID. There was not much happening, but Stay It Road still presented itself as a real safety issue, and that's what we really cornered on, or cornered ISK on, that this was a disaster waiting to happen because the road was undersized, and I realized that it had been built under precarious situation where a third party had just built that road in the 70s without any consultation with the band, and there was a lot of residual feelings on how that happened. So we tried to work through difficulties that presented with individual members as we move forward. But let's take a look at the slides. It'll help you go back to that period of time. There's Stay It Road with the bus stop, the kids being dropped off like on the side of the road, trucks and cars and increasing traffic. It was the primary and provides an important linkage for pedestrians and the regional transit system. Next slide. Oh, the average width of the road was 6 meters, which is really not sufficient. Certainly if you have people walking on the road. The ditches were insufficient as well. The drainage very poor when it rained. A lot of the culverts were blocked or collapsed. And so the 3 stages that we have to go through with any project is first feasibility, which we did very quickly. There had been some work done previous to my tenure on the feasibility. And then there's a design process that has to be approved by ISC so that it meets all the requirements of the National Building Code. And then the last is a project approval called a FAR. There's a FAR, a PAR, and then a DAR. Anyway, we got that done in fairly short order with the help of KWL Engineering. So it was undersized, and there was no sidewalk, the gravel shoulder, and it was absolutely dark. I drive on that road every day, and I can't tell you the number of times I think I saw people, kids and seniors and people at risk trying to negotiate that road. Okay, then we moved on. This is some more pictures of what it was like. We'll all remember, and we all lived through that together in terms of its challenges, and especially the darkness, like at nighttime in the winter. Really, there was no lighting at all. So it was just untenable. Next one. So construction began in September of 21, and the winter was approaching, and to improve pedestrian access. Safety, of course, it was always the primary concern for members. The project was reviewed, approved, and partially funded. You see, ISC knows from their demographic analysis that the majority of people who might use that road may not be members, and they don't feel obliged to pay for that. But we pushed it again as a primary safety issue. So we've actually finished the project without having to finance anything or go into debt. We have taxation capability to backstop, but I'll talk about the finances in a minute. But so we got it approved. Started off, and there we have. Now, for the first several months, it didn't look like there was much progress happening. But the real value of the road is underneath. Because we went back to them and says, while we're doing the road, we have a sewer system and a water system closer to the shore. We need new pipes under that road. And if we can do that, so they kicked in an extra $1 million for 900 meters of new water line and 600 meters of sewer lines. All new, it'll last 50 years or more. So the scope of the work included widening the road. So it's an extra couple feet, 0.6 meters, and it's widened as a driving road. Adding a sidewalk and street lighting to improve safety and access. It's slightly elevated so that cars really couldn't even very easily accidentally clip on a pedestrian. Again, 900 meters of new drinking water mains. Stormwater facilities. Every time it rained a lot, there was places on the road that flooded. And erosion, of course, and all kinds of consequences due to the rains. But we were able to improve and put in new culverts all along. And I don't know if you noticed, new head walls. So the deterioration shouldn't be upon us anytime soon. 600 meters of sewer lines and 23 LED street lights. We got the top of the line street lights. They're dimmable if necessary, if they're too bright. But now, whenever you drive down there at night, you would see anybody on the road, and people walking would have the pleasure of walking on a sidewalk that's safe and see where they're going. Next. Sewer force main and sanitary sewer mains are installed. Yeah, well, as I said, but it's also the force mains are additional benefits to the sewer system that make sure the contents of your sewer move along to our wastewater treatment plant. And while that work was being done, we did, and I guess I have to say that I shared, and many of you shared with me, the disruption that we had in terms of whether it's walking or driving, and that was several months of agony. But COPCAN had two flaggers, I don't know, some of you, CJ and Clarence, both Indigenous people who tried to keep a smile on their face when they were being yelled at or being, but my hat goes off to them. That's probably the toughest job. Okay, new drinking water mains installed connected to the existing water system to improve the security of the water system. We also simultaneously to that had a new development proceeding. So the number of trucks were doubled as to how many would normally be on the road. And the trucks took a big they're big trucks, tandem trucks, and full of stuff. So the roads took a beating, and there was a lot of coordination between the project managers that we were required, and people pretty much complied with holding in mind what the ultimate result was going to be, was a new, safe, well-lit road plus good infrastructure. Again, okay, there's the new drink. Okay, we can move on. Oh yeah, we tried to make sure that we weren't putting any industrial material or stuff into the storm system. So that's what the people said, what are those straw bales all about? And there they are. They were long enough to start growing stuff, actually. And then there's some new culverts there that I guess this is over near Church Road. Just pictures taking us back to, okay. And construction, they worked all through the winter. This winter, the snow and the cold was a little more severe than normal, but I have to credit Copcan Engineering with doing a stellar job on. Am I it? Yeah. And particularly the oversight. We met every week to make sure that with any change orders, we ended up actually saving money because in one case the water main and the sewer were in fact adequate and were far enough apart to meet code. And so we got a bit of a saving where we could. And they were great to work with. And under the professional supervision of Elizabeth Lau from KWL, we kept track of all of the activities. We sold them the water, our cultural worker. Both of them were at hand every time there was new soil disturbed, and they were always on the job to make sure that if there was any unearthing of artifacts or cultural considerations that were attended to. There were some more pictures and then things seemed to change when we had all the pipes in, fine, it's filled in. And now the curbs were going up. I still remember that day. It was a great thing to see curbs being done the way they do these days. In the old days, they had framing and pouring cement and frames. Now they have a new technology. It basically excretes a curb ready to go. And so I have to say that the community was really good about not disturbing the cement during its. We didn't have any problems there with people, messing with it. There's the curbs going on. That was a turning point because then people could see above ground that there was real progress. In spite of the fact that, as I said, the real value is below the surface for sale. Okay, and there we are. Okay, this. Well, that road I talked about in the 70s that was built by Campers of America was pretty inadequate. It was thinner than it should have been. That's why it broke up. That's why we had all the potholes all the time. It also oxidized, so our initial plan was to use that asphalt and add to it good asphalt. But what we found out is that it was so bad it wasn't worth using. So what you've got now is a road top that meets grade, and it's all new asphalt. It's not this mixed stuff. And that cost an extra about $100,000, but we approached ISK and they compensated us for that. The road is now lit up by 23 LED street lights. This is one of the last things we did. Okay, and if we can move to the next one. And substantially completed by April of 2022. And there's the sidewalks. And this is an area this is an area of Sayot here which has always presented problems down at there's a creek that runs through, and you know, the CP holder there encountered has challenges on sewer as well as buildup of water. So what we did there is we actually put an extra culvert beyond the contract agreement, so that it would take any water that used to come across, because it won't now, and flood in that area. So that embankment there, it's all on the right of way, and it contains and keeps the water out of there. It goes down and just gets flushed out through the creek without residing on that particular property. Next one. Oh, this is kind of neat. This is, I have to give our new band manager credit for making sure that that we had the stop signs translated into the Senchaka language, and that our crosswalks were unique and had the color that we all now associate with concern for every lives matter of the children. And so all the crosswalks have been painted that way. Next. And you know, again, I can't say enough about the opportunity to work on this project and to be the project manager and get this done, because every day I feel so thankful that we have a community that now looks, feels, and is different. It was, and that the project came on budget. But there's the COPCAN core staff, and there's me when I was 20 pounds heavier, and yeah, so that's our new Sayot Road. And so now in terms of the budget, it's in your package, but we came in at $3 million and change. ISK provided us 2.6 really, and so like I say, we've accommodated that financially without any stress on any financial debt or current or future liability. The road there's only a couple of things. We still have a little area of the road down near Cedar Ridge East, because we had to move a hydro line, and so that'll be filled in very shortly. And near the Longhouse Road, we still, the shoulders aren't quite wide enough, and so we still want to adjust that. When the ISK people, Kevin Vollmer and Mike Briere, came to visit us and celebrate the finishing of the road, they pointed those things out. But they've indicated to us that they are using this project as a best practice, and they were very supportive. I mean, they're not always. They make life difficult sometimes with their administrative requirements, but in this case, we got her done. So I stand before you thanking the community for their tolerance throughout the process, and hope and enjoy the fact that I will also enjoy the road. It's a member of your community, so not a band member, but I feel as though I'm very appreciative to be here. So that's it. And, do we take questions, Eric, or you know? Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I want to just point out that we're also doing a water conservation survey. Please fill your survey out. We're going to be drawing some thrifty gift cards donees as a result. But this is to save our wastewater treatment plant from water that's going into the plant that shouldn't be. Leaking toilets, dripping sinks. You'd be surprised how much that contributes to the capacity of the wastewater treatment plant. So step one is we fixed what's called the I&I, infiltration and inflow. And step two is we're in progress to rejuvenate, rehabilitate the wastewater treatment plant in a good way. Thank you. I'll be. Oh, we have a question?
I just want to thank you for the road that was just finished. I think that was a long time coming. And if I remember correctly, I think it's when Eric was still working with us and Gwen, that they put the funding in for the roads way back in the day. But I'm glad that it's complete. But I guess now I'm looking forward to the rest of our roads, Sesu and Mount Newton, for safety issues. Because I remember a couple of times coming home at 11 o'clock in the winter time that, you know, we just about ran over a couple of our young people because there was no lights. And on Church Road and on this road. And now that the lights are there, that they have a sidewalk, that they can be safe in their travels, and I really do appreciate that. And like I said, now for my safety and my cousin here, you know, the lights are always a welcome, so that now there's non-native people that live here. There was somebody flashing in my window with a flashlight at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I just happened to wake up at that time. And it's so dark over on Sesu. It's really dark and you can't see. And for the safety of our elders here, you know, I think it would be nice to even get the lights if they can't get the roads done. I'd really appreciate that. But again, thank you for the roads and the sidewalk for our kids and our grandchildren. I do really appreciate that.
I guess my main concern is Mount Newton was always our main road, and now the problems that have arisen because of the erosion done to Mount Newton as a result of the year-long traffic, especially the semis. The roadway is falling away on a beach side. And when I was riding with my niece one day, she said, "Auntie, did you feel that? I felt the road. I felt the road move." And then when my brother was walking his dogs down the beach and that heavy traffic was going by, he could actually see the dirt falling away because of all of this extra and excessive traffic on Mount Newton. And it was a really scary time for me as a grandmother and a great-grandmother to be worried about the safety of my children, my great-grandchildren. I have to lock my doors because my great-grandkids want to run out to the roadway, and it's still not safe from the amount of traffic that's on that road. But I want something done to remedy the erosion problem before that roadway falls into the beach. So I'd be grateful, you know, for this issue to be looked into so that we don't have to worry about driving by and the road caving in, which has happened, you know, in other areas all over the place. We don't want to have that happen here. So it's just a concern that I had to voice my opinion on. And you know, as a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother, I'm worried about everybody's safety. And it would be really nice, like Belinda said, to have that extra lighting on Mount Newton and Sesu. A lot of our children still walk up that road going up to McDonald's and Shell and Esso. And my grandson said to me, "Mama, how come they didn't do nothing to our road?" and I didn't know what to say to him. So my care and concerns always, for our safety. So I would be really happy to have somebody look into that issue. Thank you.
Can I respond? Well, thank you, Belinda, for your comments. I really appreciate that. But Edie's quite right. There was some deterioration that happened because of the truck traffic. It was incredible. We did route as a one-way for the most part, but not everybody complied. And then there's other issues with Church Road coming up and the turn. We took a big tree out of there. It's widened, but you're absolutely right. There's what we have done as managers, though, is put together a little bit of a list, and that, Edie, that's on the list. And if everybody wants to come and see me over that right in the corner there, and Rose is there, and Rose is the person I related to earlier, who's worked with Elizabeth and Mike in overseeing this project. She knows this infrastructure of this community like the back of her hand. She was out every day, making sure that the specs were abided by and the quality of the work was good. And I got a lot of feedback from some of the workers, the Copcan workers. They helped one gentleman who'd fallen down, and and they really got into the improvement and that they were challenged with. But Edie, you're totally right. Lights. Also, we've brought up that even on Central Saanich, where many members live, on Central, there are no lights there. There is no sidewalk there. And so we have brought up with Christine Cullen, Central Saanich, that it's time they did something about it. And the mayor has said that they have passed a motion in principle to put up on Central Saanich. I'm offside from your, but Central Saanich itself is taking responsibility to put in some lights on Central Saanich, as well as a crush pavement, much like that's on Stellies, same kind of thing. It's a sidewalk separate and apart, so that they're looking at that. But Mount Newton is noted, as you suggested, and it's one of in the next 10 years, it has to happen. So with the new funding arrangement you'll hear more about, I think the capacity will be there. To make sure that occurs.
Yep. Hi there, Wayne. I really appreciate you guys coming forward with all the information. I appreciate it when Chief and Council and staff are available. As I was on council for a long time, and I was really happy to see a lot of the shifts that were occurring, and to really see an investment in our staff to go beyond having a department of one or two people, or, it's really hard for people to do their work if they're a department of only one person. So I really appreciate that. I think there's, still a lot of work to do, and I'm not opening the door to the complaint department, but like Edie said, we do need to have some strategic site crosswalks painted, and down there at Mount Newton and Sasu. Sometimes it even just helps having the grid, the contrast grid, so that you can see people walking. And I think we need that right over here at Mount Newton. As you cross over to the community mailbox, it's not just for me and my dog. It's for the kids, because they're coming from the bus stop, they're coming from the programs, they're coming from back in the neighborhood there. And then there's people that are walking across the road. Sometimes not, able to see or not able to walk very well. So I think we need a visibility crosswalk there. To me, it's a priority. And, all that great work you did, there's still that pothole right at the entrance.
I know.
And I think that's a tough one. And I challenge our workers as well. We need that policy there when developments are going in, that we're looking at the load that gets put on our roads. The trucks that have been going through, there should be some kind of fee around recovering some of the damage because of heavy trucks going through the reserve. And we really should be having some kind of regulation of the weight of some of those trucks, because those piggyback trucks, when they're fully loaded, I think they're just too heavy for our roads. And, our roads in some places aren't wide enough. So we really need to look at policy like that if we're thinking about the safety, particularly the kids. And I know when we talked about roads and sidewalks, it was really to help a lot of the people that were trying to walk on the road in a safe way. And particularly, most of our population is young, under 30 years of age, and they've got children. Not just one child, they've got 2 or 3 or 4 children, and they're trying to balance taking a stroller, holding on to a toddler, and they need to have a good sidewalk. So I think we still have some work to do, and I just really appreciate it. And I do, because I do go back and forth with my dog, and I really appreciated that even though those are neighbors in the trailer park, a manufactured home park, they were upset too, but they were really proud of what Sayout did to actually make that commitment and do that work. And I talked to the guys from CopCan as well, and they were also really proud to serve one of their own communities. And I think that's the way to go, to always work with a lot of our own local communities to support them and give them that recognition when they do a good job, because I think that goes a long way for helping our economy and helping our recognition as Indigenous First Nations. So I just want to say thank you. Aishka.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a crosswalk there is a really good idea. But can I share with you that what's on the books as well? And it's already been agreed to as the next step is we want speed bumps and a crosswalk on Tateyat. Did I say it right, Belinda? On Tateyat. At least 2. We've actually costed them out, and we will probably going for a tender. We've talked about it with KWL as a further improvement. We've also put, you'll notice, a lot of signage right on the road, 30 kilometers an hour, on Tateyat as well, and to help remind people that of the speed limit. Speeding is an issue. We've asked, and I just saw yesterday 2 people get a speeding ticket coming down Stayot because we've asked the RCMP to increase surveillance on the speeding, and they both Dan and Ravi. It's Ravi, is it? I call him Ravi all the time, but they both are on the job on that one. But thank you, Mavis, for your comments. See you in the corner.
Thank you, Wayne. Just to remind people that we are live streaming this today. That's why we'd like to encourage everybody that has questions to use the microphone. Dave here is live streaming this out on the Sayout Facebook page, I guess. And so all the people that weren't able to be here in person, we hope that they can chime in on the Facebook page and see this live streamed. Just reminding people that to let our presenters make their presentations and then take questions after they make their presentations. Edie? Yeah. Wayne has one more comment for you.
One more comment.
I forgot one of the main reasons that I was bringing up about the lighting was there's been a lot of scare about people coming. I don't know what you call those people that come in and take kids. Yeah.
What?
There has been that problem where our children are being followed, like if they go to Shell or McDonald's. That was one of the main reasons we were bringing up about the lighting, because of those of our kids that walk on Mount Newton down to Say Sioux or further down that way, there has been that incident happening where kids are being followed. And even in broad daylight, we have these strange people like coming here and driving through and taking pictures. So along with the lighting, I guess it's security measures. Thank you.
Well, you know, during COVID, we engaged with Geo Services Security, and there's still, although I don't think we have any core funding for them, we did it in COVID because we wanted to make sure outsiders were checked, so that, in fact, during the first 11 months of COVID, we were COVID-free as a community. And I think those security measures, and they're still doing shifts, and they find people drinking or they discourage people. So geosecurity is still there. We should, you know, and they've observed certain things from time to time. But as we go forward, that's something to consider. Where, you know, the surveillance, and some people even suggest there may be more cameras around. As a suggestion of getting, you know, tracking down license plates, and I've heard about the taxi cab driver or somebody who's been inappropriate, and so we need information to relay that to the police, and so those are some good points, Edie. Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah, like I was saying, we are live streaming it here today, but to let all the staff, the band members know that there's information booths all around here from all the different departments that you can approach and ask questions. And also there's members of Chief and Council here that can be approached and ask questions. And so hopefully when we break for the supper break, then people can go around and approach the booths. But again, we're going to go on to our agenda again. The auditor is going to come up. Peter Benjolson is going to come up and present the audit.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Deemer. I'm the CFO at Takeout. I started in February of 2021. When I started, it was after a 9-month absence of a finance manager or CFO. And you can imagine how hard it is to pick up. And I want to thank specifically Betty at our finance table for keeping the fort while there was nobody there. Without her, the finances would have really come to a halt, so thanks very much. So as it, yeah. So as we started the process of you know, getting the finances together for Takeout, we were also presented with the fact that we could not locate the last 2 years of financial data. We won't guess as to where it went, but it was not present. So we had to rebuild the finances from the ground floor up. And I am incredibly grateful for our auditor, Peter Brynjolfsson, who has been our auditor for many years. And without his knowledge and expertise, this process would not have happened. So we relied on his expertise, his knowledge of our nation's finances to help us get back to a starting point and also do the financial statements and the audits. So it's with great pleasure that I'd like to introduce to you our auditor, Peter Brynjolfsson.
Well, thank you very much for asking me here today. And Wayne, I must say I was impressed with your slideshow. I had an urge to go home and get some of my slides and bring them over. But this year's audit is almost complete. It will be for March 31st, 2022. We hope to have it complete by July 29th. I'm a chartered professional accountant with an office in Victoria, and I provide independent assessments of financial records and the accounting system to ensure your year-end financial report provides a fair representation of band finances. Now, this year's report will be finished very shortly, so I'm going to be presenting it, I believe in November is when we have our next meeting, so you'll be much more current. I'd like to just talk a little bit about the previous audit. Now, we're going back 16 months, which is quite a bit of time. It's March 31st, 2021. But I just want to give you an idea of where the money comes from, because when you see these booths, you know, you get an idea of what sort of dollars are coming in to fund them. Now, the main funding source is ISC. It's Indigenous Services Canada, the old Indian Affairs. And in the previous fiscal year ended March 31st, 2021, Indigenous Services Canada provided $6.5 million. You got from the Health Authority $1.4 million. The GST was $1.9 million. Property taxation $1.3 million. And the various other pools of funds came to $2.6 million. So back in 2021, your total funding was $13.7 million. Now that comes in and it's funneled into each one of these, what we call in accounting, we call them segments, but you look at, they're called departments, so you'll recognize them. Now, governance and administration was $669,000 was spent there. Social development, it was $1.5 million. Lands management was approximately $1 million in expenditures. Public works was $891,000. Health was $1.7 million. And the GST funding that came in, $1.7 million of that was allocated. Property taxation, $1.3 million. Housing, $1.2 million, and education, $706,000. So that gives you a rough idea how that money is allocated. And it'll be fairly similar with the exception of capital in this coming year. Greg's going to speak a little bit about the current year finances. We don't have any final numbers, but we'll have them for you shortly. So I just want to say, though, that in the last audit that was completed, your consolidated audit report it's accessible on the First Nations site under the First Nations Financial Transparency Act. And as auditor, I concluded that your March 31st, 2021 financial statements presented fairly the band's financial position in accordance with Canadian accounting standards. And I concluded that the nation is financially solvent and the nation is in compliance with reporting standards. And so far, this year's audit, it's almost complete and things are looking very good. I'm very pleased with the progress here at Say-What. I've been here a long time and I think you guys are really progressing well now. I think you've got some really good high-end professional people in working for you. So, and they're doing a good job. So I'm just going to let Greg say a few words on finances, if I may.
Yes, thanks, Peter. Yeah, like Peter said, the current audit is very close to completion. We set our deadline to be July 29th. That was the historical submission date for what was then INAC, and which is now ISC. We want to continue with that because the sooner we know the results, the better it is. We can plan, we can budget, and we can move forward. The leadership has a lot of initiatives that they want to move forward with, such as the Mount Newton Road upgrades. But it's my job to help allocate the funds that we have. We don't have unlimited funds, so we have to take one step at a time. One of the results of our unqualified audit that Peter just shared with you and our current financial situation is that we are considered we qualified for the First Nation Financial Management Board compliance, which means that we can, we have access to the 10-year grant. The 10-year grant provides funding from ISC for 10 years, which is, it increases with inflation, which is fantastic that we have that right now, because you all know what inflation is like, so that's a great step. We also get the funding up front, so we don't have to wait for it to come in, and we can start planning with that right away. we also know we're going to get that funding for the next 10 years. So we are certain of the amount of funding that we get at minimum. So these are a lot of really positive steps. One other area that is positive about the grant is that it's now up to the department managers to allocate those funds. We are not being micromanaged. It's up to the manager to say, these are the funds that we get. This is what we want to do. And instead of doing financial reporting based on invoices and expenditures, we report based on results. And that's what we're all here for, is to see results for our membership, for the environment, for our infrastructure, and what have we. So it's a very positive step forward. When you are qualified through FNMB, it's also a very positive step when you apply for other loans outside with the regular banks, or if you want to open accounts with companies such as, say, SLEG, that will grant us credit. So it's easier to do business. And another benefit is that through the FNMBA, we can actually get loans at a preferred rate at up to about 0.9% difference between the best rates of the banks. And when you're looking at initiatives such as the water treatment plant, where we could easily be on the hook for $5 to $10 million, if you look at a 1% difference over a year, after 10 years, we're looking at $500,000 of difference in interest rates. So that's another really positive step, and I'm excited to see where that's going to go. As Peter acknowledged, we are almost done with the current audit. The results are looking like they will be positive, which means that we have money to spend. And as a CFO, I'm usually known for saying no to people's requests to spend funds. I'm not in that position anymore. I can say, yes, you have a mandate, you can spend the money to fulfill that mandate. So it's really exciting to be part of that. It's exciting to be part of the current council. And Chief Underwood have really great ideas for this community, and are doing a great job also promoting our community with the governments and the various stakeholders. So as far as I'm concerned, we're in a great place moving forward. There's a lot of opportunity, and thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you, Greg and Peter. Is there any questions to the auditor or the CFO? Edie?
I guess a lot of the things you were saying about all managers and different departments are the ones that are supposed to be dealing with the budgets and no micromanagement. I just really want to make sure that's true, because I was the health director here for 9 years, and every month I got a copy of our ledger to show where the expenses were, what was paid out, And I was told by Health Canada nobody could move any health dollars without my permission. And when I did question, I was fired there was nothing they could say about my termination. And each manager should be able to get a copy of their GL monthly to show what money was expended, what money they have left. And I just want to ensure that that's happening, because there has been micromanagement here in the past. And every one of these people working here, they should be able to go look for funding when needed. When I worked with Health Canada, all of their programs were proposal driven, so that we had to know how to do a proposal. Because when they hired me in 1997, the budget for health here was $200,000. And myself and my co-worker negotiated health transfer, negotiated these buildings. We did proposals, and we brought the funding from $200,000 a year to $1 million. So every manager here should be capable of looking for extra funding, because I'm told, well, there's no more elders' lunch. There's nothing for the children in the programs. And they're being told there's no money. And I said, the children's well-being is what should be most important here. We're living in poverty. And I can imagine what low-income parents are dealing with, so the children should be able to come here and get a snack or a meal. So everybody should be capable of looking, because I know people like Coast Capital and other agencies do have programs. So I'm really hoping, that all of the program managers are ensuring all of this, for the benefit of our children especially. But too, when I worked with Health Canada, I knew every person working there and who to call when there was a shortage of funding, and I don't know if that can be said about the Health Authority, and they actually should have been here. So I'm just really saying all this for the benefit of the people, that we keep looking at the best interest of the community members. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing with your wisdom and experience. I'm very sorry to hear that you had a negative experience at the end of your tenure here. I urge you to talk to all of our managers and inquire with them whether they have access to our financial statements. And I think you'll find without exception that this has been the number one priority of the finance department. And I'd like to highlight Syed help with helping each department manager set up their budgets, find out where the sources of revenues are, where they are, where the departments are in their spending. And we always have an open door in helping with the applications for funding, to helping with the financial side of that. And it is our number one priority to help the budget, to help the managers prepare the budget so that they know what they are responsible for. They can take ownership of their own programs and they can run with it. There's nothing better than seeing department managers, taking their mandates and just really running with it. And I can honestly say, since I got hired by Wayne and then continuing on with Christine, we've got some incredible managers that are extremely capable and are doing exactly what you suggest, is that they go after the money and they lean on finance to give them the resources to run their departments. So thank you for those comments.
Herman?
Well, I just have a word to say about housing. I was involved in housing for about 15 years. And we always had new houses built. Renovations were usually done. Nowadays, I had to phone down here to get a safety rail put in my house so I can get in and out of the shower, which should never ever happen. The housing contractors should be going to the houses and checking out the houses for safety reasons. I don't think you've ever gone around, but when we were running the housing ourselves as band members, we checked the houses every month. Like when that subdivision was built, Helen was one, and myself, and every family had a member. And we used to go around to every house and check every house to see if the windows were broken or shelves were broken or whatever. And I haven't never seen that been done since we were told that we can't do that job anymore. And also, elders should never have to phone down to get a safety rail put in. They got a list here of how many people are over 65 years old. They should be up there checking their houses to make sure their stairs are well and that all the bathrooms and that. They should be getting handicapped toilets. I'm very fortunate. I just rebuilt a house and it's all handicapped because I've had 3 heart attacks and they had a heck of a time getting me out of my old house that I built myself, actually with help of my brothers and stuff. But I wish they'd go back the old way, have a family member on each for housing, because like I say, I hear say over $1 million for housing. What do they got to show for? I don't drive around the reserve very often, but I don't think there's any new houses down there. So, I mean, if all this has been done with over $1 million, where did it go? And same with a lot of the other stuff on that list. Same thing. There's lots of money there, but where'd it go? There's nothing to show for. So that's all I have to say is that thanks for you folks having this meeting and doing your jobs, but we got to get some more done on housing and safety reasons and stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to acknowledge the extreme importance of housing. We're aware of the deficiencies and the difficulties. I know Jordan is and has been working really hard to find funding for the renovations, for the upgrades. I know how, and Aliyah, they've been working really hard. If you want specific answers to departmental questions, you're free to ask Jordan. We're going to have some time to mingle during supper time. So please walk by all the booths and ask the department managers. But yeah, once again, housing is one of the top priorities here. So thank you for your comments.
CM, just like to thank Chief and Council for having this meeting and all the staff. I just came up, I got 2 concerns for our reserve, and that's our road, Mount Newton. You guys it's all right, you guys are fixing this back road, but the front road really needs care. It really needs to be repaired. I drive it every day, and I see the erosion down there. You go down the front road, you see half the roads leaning over towards the ditch. Pavement's cracked. I don't know if you guys are waiting for it to fall or cost us more money to repair it. And my other concern is that bridge. You guys got money for this bridge because of the flooding and erosion. And I brought questions before about that other bridge down by my place. There used to be a bridge here. I know, I used to play around under there. And they put this cement wall there. Now it's always flooding. It don't open. I don't know if you guys are going to wait for the plant to go underwater before we start doing things. I was maintenance for 25 years. I worked for Buster when he was maintenance supervisor. I worked for Frank when he was my supervisor. And then I became supervisor. And I became an operator, looking after these roads, taking care. And I don't see our guys out there doing these jobs. You know, it's only certain parts I see them, and that's sad to see. It really hurts, because when I worked for the people. I listened what they had to say, and I tried to do what they asked. My main concern is the road and the plant. It's $1 million plant. Don't wait till it goes underwater. I'm telling you the truth, when it's winter time, that gate don't open, the road's underwater. Your guys' fence you put underwater. You know, I worked here for 25 years for the reserve. Same thing with Edie. I got the maintenance, and then they got a company to come in. Herbson Construction took it away from me, and I was let go. No reason. Not even a thank you for all the years I put in for this reserve. But I don't see that work going on. But those are my two concerns, the road and the plant. You guys keep saying it's $1 million plant, you should take care of it. Start checking the road. I'm scared of that road. I drive school bus. And then when I go in front of Al's, the bus turns, tilts. Don't wait till it starts dropping. Those are my two concerns. And once again, I thank the people for coming in. I thank the council for finally having a general meeting and an audit report. You know, that's all the people want to know. That's all they want to hear. They don't want you guys keeping it behind closed doors. And it's good you guys have this auditing and housing and everything. So with that, the Heights got sent.
Well, thank you, Lee. We have an agenda here that tells us that supper is going to be at 5 o'clock. And we've gotten up to the agenda, now finished the audit report. So we're going to let people wander now between all the booths that we have here for general information. You can go ask any of the staff any questions you want, or you could come up here and ask members of council or the project, the managers that are sitting up here. You can ask them questions, but this is open now until after supper. Supper will be at 5 o'clock, and so I'm going to set you free now, and you can wander around here and ask questions to whoever you need to today. Ocean, ice cut.
Untitled Chapter.
I guess before I call my cousin Celestine up here to close the table, I'd like to have a big hand for the cooks. That was a wonderful supper. I even had 2 fisheries. Good. So Celestine, call you forward to close the table.
I'll stand there before I close the table. All the staff here, the cooks for the wonderful meal, lights cut. Thank you, Jesus, for the wonderful meal that was prepared here today, dear Jesus, through the cooks and the helpers. Pray for it, nourish everybody's body, mind, and soul, and pray for each and every one here to strengthen their mind, body, and soul for the rest of the meeting, dear Jesus. Give you all the praise and the glory through the candle, the bells, the healing song, and the cross, dear Jesus. This I pray in your name. In the Father, and Son, and Holy Ghost. Amen.
Hi, Scott Celestine. We're going to get back to the agenda now. Next on the agenda is a governance policy update. I call Christine forward.
Good evening. My name is Christine Bird. I'm the band manager for SAOT. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the governance policy, the governance manual that was just redone. Just to give you a little bit of background about who I am, I finished my master's and my PhD at the University of Victoria in 2020. I started working as education manager for SAOT in October of 2020, and I started working as the band manager last June of 2021. And coming to SAOT, I noticed that there was no job description for the band manager or any sort of manual that told me what my role is, what my responsibilities were to the staff, to chief and council, to community. And so one of the first things that I did as a band manager was I did an environmental scan of everything that was SAOT. That included all of the band's policies, laws, codes. And what I realized was that the SAOT governance manual was outdated. The last governance manual that was in place was done in 2007. So that was one of the first tasks that I completed as a band manager. Is I worked with Sayout Chief and Council, and we also worked with Kena Law Corporation, Sonia Pigeon, who's also here today. And we looked at the governance manual and we updated the manual. So the manual itself did not provide a clear direction on the roles and responsibilities, not only for myself, but for Chief and Council as well, and for community and for staff. So this current governance manual, it's on our website, and we have provided a copy to everyone who's came in today. It's made public for anyone to review at any time. And what it does is it covers the roles and the responsibilities of Chief and Council. It covers what authorities they have and what authorities they don't have, according to the Indian Act. It also covers orientation and succession planning of Chief and Council. So how do we move from one election to the next? How do Chief and Council, when we have a new council member, such as Councillor Donald, how do we provide him with the orientation and the information regarding his role and his responsibilities to community? Those are some of the things that were updated in this governance manual. Council remuneration. Most people, strangely enough, in the community don't know whether the council make a salary or an honorarium. And your Chief and Council make an honorarium. That's public knowledge. You can find that on ISK's website. But the manual itself provides direction on remuneration, such as how much council are paid and any sort of increases, how council have to go about getting their honorariums increased. That process is all laid out in this manual. So that, because some of the comments and the questions that we have from community is Chief and Council pay themselves this amount, Chief and Council have access to the band's finances, which is not true. All of those regulations, roles and responsibilities of Chief and Council are laid out in this manual. The other thing that is covered in this manual is meetings and decision making. How meetings are expected to be conducted and how decisions are made. The other policy within this manual is the relationship between council and band manager. So as a band manager, one of the first things that I learned with the new Chief and Council was that Chief and Council have only one employee, and that's me. All of the other employees that you see here, I am responsible for, and I report to Chief and Council. So this is what this manual outlines. It outlines my relationship to Council. The other, some of the comments that we often receive is that Council directs staff. Council tells staff, I want this done, I want this done. That's not true either. It may have been true at some time in the past, but according to this manual, Council, Chief and Council have nothing to do with administration. They provide me with direction, they provide me with the mandate, and I am responsible for the staff and all operations. When it comes to any sort of grievances, whether it's from the staff or whether it is from community, I have what they call a managing band counselor. Normally that's the chief, But because of the chief's responsibilities, a band counselor is assigned to provide me with supervision and support. And currently, that managing band counselor is Abraham Pelkey. So whenever I run into any challenges, whether it's from community, if community have a problem with me and the job that I'm doing, or they have a problem with the staff, they may talk to the chief and council, but individual council members do not have the authority to provide me with direction. They have to bring it to the chief and council table for discussion, and that managing band council member will provide me with direction and support to carry out any decisions that were made by chief and council. So that's one of the ways that we start to address community concerns. But another real challenge that we've had since I became band manager was staff going to chief and council with their complaints and with their concerns. And so along with the governance manual, we also had to redo our HR policy. That HR policy was last done in 2018. And legally, any policy, law, or code should not be any more than 5 years old. So anything older than 5 years needs to be updated. And so there's a process that we've put in place that each department go through their governing documents and they start to edit those documents, and they work with a legal team. And once those documents are updated, it's passed around to all of the managers for review, and then it's presented to chief and council for review, and it goes through a legal review before it actually becomes updated. And that's the same process that happened with the governance manual. So the other piece of this manual that, the other policy that this manual covers is council and sale employees. And like I said, council, any individual council member or chief does not have the authority to direct any staff or manager. Any decisions that are made or any mandate has to come from the table itself, the chief and council table, and they provide me with that direction to carry out. The final policy in this manual covers council and community members. And some of the items that are included in the council and community members is what is their responsibility to community? How do they function in relation to the administration and community? How do they carry out the needs of the community? And part of what you will notice in the manual is that it sets out a schedule for quarterly meetings. And I know in the past, and that's something that we've heard a lot of, is that the administration doesn't hold band meetings. This AGM is the start of a consistent process that I would like to implement. AGMs are designed to provide a space for the audit to be published and to be discussed with community. And we've also added a few other things on the agenda, such as some of the capital projects that we've completed. But the AGM will be an annual thing. Once the audit is completed, this year we've had it in July because it marked 1 year that this council has been sitting. However, next year, every audit is completed in July, and so we're nearing the completion of this year's audit, and we'll be done it, I'm told, ahead of time, which is great considering what things were like financially when I got here. So next year, the AGM will be in September, which will give us time to complete the audit and actually present the audit for that year. But following this AGM, we are going to reinstate and start our quarterly community meetings. So the next community meeting will be in November, and we'll have a separate agenda for that one as well. And part of this administration and part of the work that we've all worked very hard to accomplish is to get to a place after COVID where we start to build relationships with community again. And that has a lot to do with how we communicate with community. We've done a lot to address our website, update our website, provide as much information to the community. Our audit, our governance manual, everything is published on our website. And we try to send out monthly newsletters on time, providing as much information. We've had several community consultations since the opening of COVID. And we'd like to continue that practice because it is good governance when you have open communication between your leadership and between the community and the managers and each of the departments. And so my message is that we're here for the community. I understand that things were done in a certain way in the past, and I know that there's some mistrust amongst community members. And I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is keeping things the same way that they were before. And my goal as the band manager, and I think that we have an excellent chief and council. I have never felt more supported by this chief and council than anywhere else that I've worked. And I know that when you're in community, oftentimes you don't think your chief and council are very good. But I've worked in enough communities to tell you that you have an awesome chief and council. And they work together as a team. They're open and they're transparent. And I'm hoping that we can work together as an administration, as chief and council, as a community, to maintain some stability so that we can start to build trust, so that we could start to build those relationships again, and so that we can start to move SAIL forward. There are a lot of projects that we have. All of the managers that you see here have spent the last year thinking about and envisioning and listening to community members and identifying what it is that we need to do. And part of that work has included a strategic plan process. The last strategic plan that SAIL has had was done by Chief and Council in 2011. We're working on a strategic plan that will include a 1, 3, 5-year plan. And in November, when we have our community meeting, we're going to be presenting that plan to you, and so that you will know everything that we have been thinking about, everything that we have heard from community, and everything that we are planning on doing. A lot of the comments that were made this evening about the road, that's in our 10-year plan. The in and out road that by Jeskin, Tediat Creek Bridge, that's all in the plan. That's all in the work. Housing is all in the works. And it's taken us some time, and you've heard our CFO share with you what our financial situation was like when he got here. We couldn't find anything. We couldn't find any documents. Now that we've done that and we've created some stability within our finance department, we've worked hard to develop capacity amongst all of our departments. When you look at our lands department, you look at our health department, our housing department is slowly getting their public works. Our fisheries department had no one. And our budget from 2019, I believe, was $51,000. $52,000. Now we've gone up, Chrissy, with our fisheries manager, has gotten a staff of 3 or 4, and she has brought that budget up close to $2 million. Our health department, we had an interim manager, and our health department, for the first time in I don't know how many years, our health department is aware of their budget. There has been a sitting surplus in health for many years, but because of how things were done previously, none of our managers were aware of what their budgets were. None of them. None of them had control over what decisions were being made, how they spent that money. That has all changed. And one of the important things that I've done since I've come to SAILT is I've worked with our staff. I've worked with our chief and council to decentralize everything. So I'm not the one making all of the decisions. There isn't just one person making decisions. It's all of the managers that you see here. They make the decisions. They work with our CFO. They work with our chief and council. They work with me. We are all a team. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I could not work under any other circumstances. And so I've become very proud of our team that we've developed. I'm very, very proud to work for this chief and council and this community. I come from the largest community in Manitoba. There's 12,000 in my community. And oftentimes people ask me, when are you going to come home and work for our community? And I was like, not as long as I'm in SAILT. And people ask me all the time, how do you like working for SAILT? And I say that I love it because I'm able to do the job I was hired to do. And that takes some trust and that takes some respect. And I like to ensure that that's the way that I conduct myself. That's the way that I do business. And that's the way that I like to work for the people. So I know that you have a lot of questions, and I know that a lot of things are on your mind, but I want you to rest assured that we are moving forward, and we would like to continue with community meetings, our AGMs, providing you with as much information as possible. And we ask that you come back. You come back into this place because this is your place. This is your community. And let's work together on building a bright place for SAILT again for our children, because they are our priority. And everyone here, all of the managers, all of the chief and council and administration staff, they believe that as well. So I just want to thank you for giving me an opportunity to share with you some of the work that we've been doing and share this governance manual. And I'm here. I'm willing to answer any question, to meet with you, and I look forward to your support as we move forward. And that comes with your guidance and your direction as a community. So I just want to say, Haichka, I want to hold my hands up to the elders who were the first to come here this evening and to speak with us. I think that's a great honor that they have taken time out of their day and to show their support that way, their love and their kindness, but also their direction and their good words. So thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. I want to thank you for your dedication and your time that learning about disabled people and Chief and Council. I just have a couple of concerns. I don't know if, I think it's because of my late brother, Lou, when he was still on council. And he always used to, spend his time being the chief and council. He said they never got a retirement package out of it. And I was wondering if chief and council, if the band can pay for them to have a retirement package, because they're so dedicated in working with us, and they get an honorarium, but they don't really get a retirement out of it. That was one of my questions. And the other one, I talked to, I think it was housing, it was housing, because we're always worried about plumbing problems or just minor problems in our homes. And I kept asking them, I was, well, why can't we have bingo here in our gym, that we can raise funds, for emergency funds, for emergency repairs in our homes. At least there'll be some sort of funding or some sort of monies coming in so that we can pay for plumbing or whatever the needs that may be in our homes. Those were my two questions. And I have one more, actually. I would like to see our community members have a personnel committee in terms of hiring, or a place for grievance or something, or at least, or elders can be sitting on there, that they, if they can assist in some way, and maybe perhaps build in our cultural experience in there as well. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments and those questions. If we, just to look at the first question that you had regarding the honorarium, if you look on page 79 of the SAOT Governance Council, the Governance Manual, on or before the 31st of each calendar year, the band manager must appoint a council honorarium committee composed of a member of any council member's immediate family, a person under the age of 18, a person whom any council member acts as a legal guardian, a person other than an employee. And so part of that committee, we haven't gotten to that because we haven't gotten to assess that, because there's been so much housekeeping stuff that we've had to develop first, and this manual was part of those things. And so in this manual, it lays out a process for assessing council honorariums, and it also lays out a process for talking about the rates, increasing even the number of meetings, the honorariums. It lays out all of that process. And so as we approach December, that's one of the things that I will be doing, because you're absolutely right. Just to share a little bit of information with you, like I said, I come from a community of 12,000, and my chief and council, they have one chief and they have 8 council members. They make salaries. My chief makes in excess of $1 million. Each of my council members from my community make no less than $200,000 a year. So when I look at the honorariums that your chief and council are making, when you look at Canada Revenue Agency and you look at the poverty line, what your chief and council are making is below the poverty line. So unless your chief and council have another job, what they make from their work as a political leader in your community is less than what somebody might make on social assistance, for example. And so they work hard. They work hard, and you are absolutely right. Just to share another story with you, I had one of my mentors was a chief of our community for 26 years. And when he no longer became chief, he had no longer any income, and he was mistreated. He was basically unceremoniously kicked out, and he didn't have no other opportunity in the community. And he passed about 6 years ago. And I think of his life. He gave up 26 years working for my community, and he wasn't treated very well in the end. He died a very poor man. And when I think about the kind of work that our people do in these positions, sometimes it's not just council meetings. Sometimes it's 24/7, and I've heard stories from our council members where people have gone to their homes while their children were having birthday parties and were angry and wanted to talk to them about business or was angry about something. And so that's been my experience. But this is your community, and I hear what you're saying. And this manual was put in place so that it can provide us with a guide and an understanding of how decisions are made, how things are done in your community. And so come December, I will be putting together an Honorarium Committee, and they will be reviewing chief and council honorariums, but also looking at retirement packages, because some community leaders have given most of their life, have committed most of their life, and I've heard stories about that from this community. And I think that we need to start treating our people better. The other question that you had was about plumbing and housing. Coming into SAIL, what I have to say is that our housing department was one of the most oppressed departments here. And we had one person who sat in an office who nobody really knew what he did, or nobody really paid attention to any of the work that he did. And it took us a long time, because as much as we have a plan, as much as we have dreams, we have a lot of housekeeping to do, a lot of cleaning up to do. And so we got to a place where I realized that our housing department is in bad need of repair. It's one of the most important departments in this community. And as we look around and we look at the housing needs, we need to do something, and we need to do something better. And so we're in the process of building our housing department. We put out a posting for a housing manager. We do need somebody who is going to look at arrears and repairs. We also need to redo our housing policy, because our housing policy does not work for us. It does not recognize or honor the needs of our elders. It does not recognize the needs of our community members who need the help the most. Nor does it recognize the needs of those people who can buy their own homes, build their own homes. What kind of resources and answers and solutions do we have for those community members? Because not everybody's the same, and not all the needs are same. And our housing department needs to be more responsive to all types of needs. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll be hiring a housing manager. We will be reviewing our housing policy, and we will be looking at building capacity and increasing the revenue that comes into funding, into housing. Because again, I can only speak from experience, and where I come from a treaty territory where housing is a treaty right. And I've seen millions of dollars in housing budgets. But when I come here and I look at a housing budget of like maybe $200,000 a year, maybe, I can't remember the exact figure, but it's nothing. And it shouldn't be that way, because housing is one of the biggest needs for our people. So my priority in the next year, and you will see that in our strategic plan, my priority is I want to see some homes built. I want to see some budgets that are set aside to help our elders in whatever that they need. We shouldn't have to fundraise money to help our people. That's our job as administrators. That's our job as managers. That's our job. And we need to be doing a better job in the area of housing. So in the next year or so, I'm hoping to see something put in place to address like the housing problem in this community. And I'm hoping that we can present to the community a housing policy that works and that recognizes and honors the differences across all families and all socioeconomic status, because we want to uplift our people. And that starts in the home. That starts at home here. So we have a plan for housing, and we're doing what we can to build a housing department to bring in revenue so that we could start addressing the housing needs in the community. Final question was the HR committee. Part of the governance manual work that we did, one of the reasons why we did the work is when I came to stay out, I wasn't clear on the hiring, who hires, who has final say, what role did chief and council have, all of those questions. And so the way that this manual is laid out is that I have the final hiring say, but I am accountable to chief and council. I do report to chief and council, and I do rely on their support and their guidance and their leadership in hiring. And so what we've started out with since completing this manual is that we've started out with two, previously the HR committee went under a portfolio that included all chief and council. But that's difficult, especially when you need a decision. You have, we found that I had to wait 2 weeks to a chief and council meeting. And then by the time I presented the candidates and we got to an interview, went back for approval, we were looking at 4 weeks, and we were losing a lot of really good candidates. So we needed to streamline the process. So what we did was we identified 2 council members, and that's Councillor Alan Claxton and Councillor Donald Williams. Every interview that we do, those 2 are part of it, part of the interviews. So that if there is ever a question about who I hire or why, Donald and Alan can speak to that, to chief and council. And if Donald or Alan is not available, the next person that we go to is Abraham Pelkey, who is the managing band counselor. So in every interview, there should be 2 or at least one of them part of it, and for myself. And so we try to prevent a fair but also efficient process so that we're no longer losing good people. And that because the normal process itself takes about 2 to 4 weeks from the time a person applies to the time the posting ends, to the time we do interviews, to the time they review an employment agreement. We could be looking at 4 weeks. So I would really like to start bringing elders in and being a part of that. Now that we've come out of COVID and it's a little more safe for everyone to be part of the processes, we've gone to our elders for consultation. They've helped us with our health evaluation and our health planning. They're also helping us with our election law process that we've engaged in. And so, as much as I want to rely on elders for everything, I don't want to burden elders either. But I will be considering an elder for our HR committee. So, 1 or 2 elders for our HR committee. I know that you are all busy, very, very busy. But there's a lot of things that we have on the go, and I'm hoping to really start zeroing in on elders and having them cover each of the areas that we're working with. But I know that Belinda and Edie are very, very, very busy. Gus, we've already employed Gus with our WLC stuff, and he's very busy. So we're gonna keep working on it, and I would like to have elders a part of what we do here every day. So thank you for those questions.
Thank you, Christine. My name is Yonat. My name comes from my late grandma's family in Chemainus. I've been married here for 30 years, and my given name is Stephanie Pelkey. I just have some few concerns for our kids. I have a lot of grandchildren, and I worry about them during school because I worry about them for school. The bus stops. The bus stops are a huge concern. As you know, we live across from the church, so my grandkids have to wait across the road in the church parking lot. My other grandchildren live down the road from us at the corner, and they have to wait across the road, as well as my sister-in-law's grandkids. There's no bus stop. There's 4 buses that come down Church Road and pass by my house every day. 4 buses. There's not a bus stop for these kids to wait at. And I think it's very dangerous when you got 4-year-olds standing there waiting for a bus. You have a lot of times, and I'll say it, is non-First Nation band members that are speeding through that road. And that's a huge, huge problem where we're constantly yelling for them to slow down outside our house. Sometimes my son waits out there because of that problem. And I don't think it's up to us. I find that Church Road Hill, that corner, is very dangerous for the buses. Because sometimes the odd bus just flies through there, does not slow down. I brought this up with Wayne at the time when he was in your position. Mm-hmm. I even got to the point where I talked to Ravi and asked him if they can kind of fix up at the church and watch the speeders that are going by. They're not going 30 clicks. They're not. My grandchildren have just about gotten hit numerous times trying to go out for the bus at 7:30 in the morning. You know, if you got to leave for work and you're late, then get up earlier, because somebody's kid is going to get hurt before something gets done about these bus stops and about the speeding, because it's bad. It's really bad along that road. Never mind the condition of the road from all the work. There's still big dump trucks going through there today. I remember 10, 12 years ago when Eric was here in your position. And they did say back then, when they did a study on the road for the erosion project, that there was to be no dump trucks riding that road because it's going to start sliding in. And here are we today. I get scared, like Willie said about the bus. You're like this if there's another car coming the opposite way. So could you imagine how the bus driver is going to feel with a busload of kids when his bus tilts? Who's going to be responsible for that busload of kids if they go off the bank? Is it going to be the bus driver, or is it going to be the band, or is it going to be the district or the tribal school? For all I know, my kid's going to be on that bus, and I will be a raging grandparent. That's how I feel. There's a lot of concerns, and my concern is those kids, especially during September to June with the busing. It's huge. Now you got a transit bus coming through. There you go again. You still got the same problem. If you're coming through with a bus, you have to stop to give that bus room to come over this way so he's not tipping over. That's how bad that road is now. It's bad. It's bad along Church Road from all the trucks. I know it was meant to be, you fix it and you fix one part of the reserve to make it better, and the other part of the reserve gets hit really hard. And it's sad that I had to take it to this level. But I'm scared. I'm scared for my kids. I'm scared for my kids that walk that road. Lighting is really bad. We need it. We need the lights along that bottom road. When you talked about having security on the reserve, there's been numerous times where I myself have come through Quick Trust, coming off the highway. I have seen non-First Nation band members trying to go out that way on a one-way coming in. And they're yelling and swearing and threatening me when I'm the one with the right-of-way. But me being me, I'm not going to get off my car. I stayed on there until they turned around and came back. Another time, coming through there, was East Indian guys on a little silver car. Now, why are they roaming the reserve? Yesterday, my son got off his car out here, and I seen them myself. 2 vans parked in the burning spot that my family uses by the graveyard. And I pulled towards them first to go and see what they were doing. And I just kind of glanced and seen the arm, and it was dark, assuming it was just a band member, and I didn't know the vehicle. Well, I carried on home. My son comes by, gets home 10 minutes later. He says, "Mom," and he was all in a rage. "There's 3 vans up there." I said, "Where?" And he says, "At the burning spot." And I said, "Oh, yeah, there was only 2, and I came home. I just got home." He says, "I got off the car to go and tell them they can't park there because it's a cultural spot that we use." And they were East Indian guys. They were East Indian people on that car. And I'm not saying, and I'm not being racist, but there's been so much out there about these East Indians and whatever picking up people. My worry was all the kids out here, because it was still camp time and they were all outside. And I know for a fact some of the kids just leave and go home when they get too tired, want to go home to their parents, so they'll run home on their own. So you don't know if that was the plan. So where's the security? You know, is there going to be security? When? You know, and what are their work hours? Nobody knows. Nobody knows what they do. Nobody knows who they are except Geo Services. And what are they able to do? You know, all these worries I have as a parent, a grandparent here in Sayout for our kids, even for myself. Walking, even for my daughter who has no vehicle, has to walk. What kind of safety is it for her to be walking knowing that there's people roaming around here trying to pick up people? Because my daughter's kids had been approached by people in a silver car, were East Indians, trying to take her kids. You know, so we have a problem. And it's a legit problem, the safety of the community. And yeah, we can all maybe try do a block parent to support each other, but we need somewhere to go when we all really run into a problem. And maybe that's what we all need to try and do, is form a block parent so that we can contact each other. So-and-so, we've seen these people or whatever. You know, but we're always the ones in the wrong when we bring it up. I have a complaint about the fisheries. It's not so much a complaint, it was these people that were down there harvesting. When we went down there and we approached them, they just yelled, screamed at us. They were allowed. I believe they said it was one of the council that let them. I'm like, I don't think so. You guys need to get off. You are not allowed. You know, and it just got ugly. Even though we told them we were going to call the police, they moved out of our sight where we could see them from my deck, moved further down to the beach, but then they came back. You know, but this is what we have to go through, you know, and we're the ones that get into trouble when we try and stop them. I don't think it's fair. You know, if we have to get permits to go harvesting elsewhere, then why are they allowed to come here? His line was, I live here, I'm from here. I said, excuse me, you're not a band member. But they think because they live in a trailer park that it gives them all rights. And do they have all the rights, the same rights as the Sayout community members, to do all that stuff? My big concern is, you know, we all have to be treated equal. My huge concern is our kids' safety during the school time. I feel where Willie is with that road. You know, I think that needs to be fixed before school season kicks in, before you have an accident. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. I really appreciate your comments and your concerns, and I've written them down. And for sure, that's something that we are going to be looking into. The security thing is a really big issue, and I think that's something that we need to address. But no buts. That was some of the feedback that we got in our health evaluation and about safety, not only for the roads and for the elders. And so the health department is actually looking into setting up some cameras around the reserve so that we could start tracking who these people are and what they're doing. We also have been working with the RCMP, and I sent out a notice on Facebook and to the parks in the community, as well as to Yellow Cab Victoria about the speeding. And I've talked to Constable Dan Steffes, and we were supposed to put it in the newsletter, but I forgot. My apologies. He said that any community member can take the license plate down of any suspicious vehicle, any speeding vehicle, and they're actually keeping a log of those vehicles. And there has been instances where vehicles were speeding through the community. A community member phoned them, and they actually followed up with that motor vehicle person, and they issued a ticket. And I've talked to Dan several times about being very visible and catching speeding, because even here at the band office, we've watched mostly a lot of courier vehicles, company vehicles, and they are just speeding down this road, the motorcycles. And I actually was joking with Becky. I was like, we should hire a summer student just to sit out there and document all of the license plates and report them, because it is that much of a concern. And so that is one of the things we are looking at, is cameras for the bridge here, the safety, because we don't always know who's coming into the community. We're looking down at the Spit. We're looking at Jimmy Road, Sasu, up at the big house. And we do need to find an effective way to address some of those concerns, because unfortunately we have non-Indigenous people that live in your community, and there are concerns. And so how do we begin to address that? And I think the security thing is one thing. I think community members need to have access to who to call. But I just want to state publicly here that as a community, if you see somebody that is a suspicious vehicle or they're speeding, you can take their license plate down, the make of their vehicle, and if you call Dan or Ravi, they will follow up, because it has been a concern. And with the new roads being done, we're trying to do everything we can to increase the safety for children and elders and families in the community. So thank you for sharing that. I know it's an ongoing thing, and hopefully, you know, like you said, it was an issue when Eric was in my position, and hopefully we can come resolve that. And we don't wait another 10, 15 years for somebody else to be standing here saying, we need to fix it. So thank you. And I just wanted to, sorry.
I just wanted to add to what Sweet was saying there. You know, it is very bad, the speeding and everything that's going on in the reserve. And to me, I feel it's up to each individual landowner to draft up letters and hand them out personally to each person that's living in their trailer court or is residing on their property. It's your property, these are your tenants, they have to be dealt with by you. And also I would like to see those blinking speed lights on the reserve. You see them in the communities, and I don't see why we can't have some more speed humps. They totally ignore them. I'm going out of the lane, honking, I don't care. They're looking at me and I'm like, slow down. So I'm doing the best I can. And as far as if there's anybody you see suspicious, I'll leave my phone number for the band and you can call me. I'll go down there and talk to them, get them out. But yeah, speeding's a big one for sure. I just wanted to add to that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dion. And in terms of the bus stops, Stephanie, too, I think you're absolutely right. That is something we need to address, is how the buses are coming through the community, how many buses stops are available. I think we just got approved for funding for a bus shelter that's at the end of, where is he? Wayne? End of Pollock. We just got funding for a new bus shelter, but that doesn't mean that we can't get more funding for more shelters. And the crosswalks, the flashing lights, like, we'll continue to work on that. One last thing. I seen her here, Tracy. Oh, sorry, Gus, I didn't know you were. Tracy, I just wanted to acknowledge Tracy Underwood. Tracy, I often get emails from Tracy, and Tracy patrols. She looks after the spit, because we do have a lot of non-community members that go down there. They're walking their dogs, they're doing whatever. And Tracy has done a really good job over the years going and saying, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be here. And I just want to acknowledge that, because that is hard work. I mean, I've had to have our lands department send out emails to and letters to some of the parks in the community saying that you do not have access. You do not have access. And my position is that as Indigenous people, you know, we're forced onto these small parcels of land, and this is all that we have left. And no, they don't have the right to access that. So that's my position. That's land's position. And I just wanted to acknowledge the work that Tracy's been doing for a number of years down there on that, just going and checking and keeping safe the community. And I think with the boating, the people harvesting, I think our fisheries manager, she's something's going on in the water. She knows about it. And so she's had like community members call her, and she's followed up. She's gone down there. She's called the RCMP. She's called the, what is it, the Water Patrol? Yeah. So she's monitoring the waters as well, and anything goes on, like she's aware of it, whether any waters that are tied to Sault territory. So we're doing everything we can. So thank you. Gus.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the Chief and Council. Is that if this is the indication of where we're going, whether it's called the custom election law or custom whatever, is that this is the first time in I don't know how many years that we have actually had a Q&A period where we're getting answers instead of us just standing up here and complaining. Because for years it was a yelling match. For years nothing was ever answered, nothing was ever given in newsletters or anything. As a matter of fact, I don't even know the minutes were read from the last AGM that we had. But having said that, if this is the beginning of a new start, I appreciate it. Thank you. Is that because I love repeating this, is that because it's so true, and it our elder is passed, Victor Underwood Sr., and we were having a meeting, and Lou Claxton was the chief, and chief and council were, you know, sitting there, and I was the band manager, and I was answering on behalf of chief and council. And the band members were just irate, and I was getting it from left and right, from my own family and stuff like that. And Victor Underwood, the late Victor Underwood, got up and spoke to the members. But primarily he spoke to me and the chief and council. And what he said was that the people aren't mad at you. It's the program, Indian Affairs program, that's frustrating them. and most of all was the welfare program. But having said that, he said, don't feel bad, is that when we walk into this building, it's business in here. When we walk out the building, we're a family and we're related and we wave and shake hands, etc. So I'm glad to see that this is happening. I only have a couple of questions. Is that, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for the fish that we do get. But I don't know whose policy we're following, whether it's an allotment from Fisheries that we get. I don't know if we have to pay for it. Either way, you know, we're grateful to get what we do get. But I sure hope that's going to be more than, you know, like the last time I got 10 sockeye. One time we came down here when there were springs and we all got one each. And so all I'm saying is that thank you for the fish we got, but also we got to do better. You know, what's the sense of having a treaty if we can't go out there and get our fish? Is that in the old days we used to get another treaty person who had a fish boat, a seiner. We hired them. We never paid them. They took a portion of the fish as payment. Didn't cost us anything. And everybody got like 20, 25 fish. That's what we got to do. Is that, I don't know why. I don't know if we're scared to talk to Fisheries about that. Or are we scared just to go out and fish? We don't need permission. The courts have already decided all that for us. So we just got to do better. Thank you. The other thing is that in our taxation, I see, you know, we get about 1.5 million was part of an income and expense. But our chief and counsel sent me to Edmonton to look at the several programs. One of them was policing. So I just have one question regarding policing, two actually. One is Dan and what's the other gentleman's name?
Ravi.
Ravi?
Yeah.
Are they 100% Indian policemen for Indian reserves? Or are they a percentage of their time to be with Indians and the other percentage to be with the municipality? Is that I've never asked that question, so I don't know. And if they are 100% to be for Indian reserves, then why aren't they staying here in our office? I bring this up all the time, is that because I've asked both of them, and they have always said to me, and my question was, how come if you are Indian policemen, why are you involved with the municipality of Central Sydney and called out to do other public work when you're supposed to be working for us? And they don't have an answer for that. So, I'd sure like to see him here 100%. That'll help with the policing issues that are being raised now. The other one is that I don't know what happens with the taxation, 100% of the taxation that comes in. I know we have to pay for a hospital, we've got to pay for different things that are given to us in service, off reserve. But my question is that why don't we keep that policing money? You know, is that we used to have, and it worked for a while, our own what do we call them? Sort of like watchmen. It was sort of like our own private police. But anyway, is that we could especially address some of the issues around children's safety, and that is to use some of that money as like they do in the school, you know, crosswalk patrol people. Is that then we have control of our own money. And I still never understand. I'll go back to policing. I never understand, if we've got about 5,000 people on this reserve, why don't we have our own RCMP force here? There are towns with less than the population than we have, and they have a full police force, and we have nothing. And my last question is, it's been raised I don't know how many times. I'll raise it again. When we had our elders gathering here, and it was up at Panorama, a lot of money was raised for the elders. At the end, the last accounting that we got, there was still $43,300 and some odd dollars in the elders' budget. What happened to it? Where is it? There hasn't been any elders traveling except for this past June, where we went down to Swiminish for a luncheon there, but there hasn't really been any elders traveling in the last few years because of COVID. But it was over 43,000, and I don't see it in the budget. There is no special ledger for it, and I guess so. It must be in general revenue. I don't know. But can we please have some sort of acknowledgement of where it is, what happened to it? Is that because there's been no elders meetings, there's been no elders gathering here. We've had some elders fundraising. So anyway, I'm always thankful for what the band has helped in some of those travels. But anyway, my last understanding was there's something like 43,300 that was still unspent. Thank you.
Thank you, Gus. I'm out of time. I'm out of time. I will look into those questions that you have around the RCMP, the fish, the elders gathering, and I'll get back to you on that. One last thing that I want to mention is we can. Okay. Okay, for sure. One last thing I wanted to mention before, I know my time's up, but I just wanted to mention SAILT election law. As you are aware, I'm hoping that you are aware, we're in the process of moving from Indian Act elections to SAILT custom election law. And this is a real opportunity for the community to have that say again, to have that control again over how your leaders are elected. And I encourage you to get involved. We have an advisory committee. Dion is part of that advisory committee. Stephanie Pelkey is part of that advisory committee. Eric Pelkey helps and provides a lot of support. Jessica Underwood is also a part of that committee. Kendra Underwood. Joanne, is it Joanne? Becky. Lillian Joe. What's... sorry, I'm trying to go through all the list of the advisory committee. Megan Sam, Charlene Underwood, Kendra Underwood, Shayna Sylvester, George Horn. So if you have an opportunity, we have the lovely Sonia Pigeon, who's helping us through the Kena Law Corporation to work on SAILT custom election law. And we also recently hired Gina Horn, who has been very helpful going around and getting some surveys done and some feedback. It's an important process that's going to place the authority back in the community when it comes to elections and electing community leaders. So I encourage you to get involved. Yeah. So thank you for your time. I hope that you've had an enjoyable evening, a good meal, and had some time to visit with each other and with some of our department staff, chief and council, and I'll turn it back over to Eric. Hi, Scott.
Well, thank you, Christine, for that presentation and all of that information for our membership. I speak from experience when I say that's one of the most difficult jobs to do is to be a band manager in a community and live there. So thank you for all that information, and I think that our membership appreciate it. Next on the agenda, we have an update that seems like I get asked this question every day. Wherever I go, what's going on with the sale at the Longhouse? What's going on with your big house? Everywhere I go, people are asking me, when's the big house opening? What's happening with it? So Becky Wilson's going to come up here and give us all the answers about the big house.
Hello, everybody. I would just really like to thank Eric for speaking at our AGM and, you know, being our middleman. Just really means a lot to us and gives us a break from talking. Yeah, so I've been working, I was actually just going through this in my head. I've been working for SAOT on and off for the last 20 years. I came back, my first day, actually Wayne brought me back as the executive assistant, and my first day was November 2nd, 2020, and it happened to be the groundbreaking for the big house. And to see that day happen in our community was very emotional for a lot of us, and it brought back to me a really big sense of pride, you know, to belong to SAOT again, and, you know, to have the house being built and to have the support from chief and council and, you know, the support from the elders, the support from our ancestors, you know. I was taught by my grandma, you know, you put your whole heart into the work that you do or you don't do it at all. And I poured my blood, sweat and tears into this project, as well as, you know, our chief and council, Mavis, you know, she sat there on many meetings with us, and it was really tough, you know. We had to wait 4 months for the long length logs to come in, and they were in the mountain, but they were buried under the snow, so they couldn't pull them out. And then we got a call saying, you know, we may have found them. And I was just praying and praying and praying and praying, you know, really hard that we were going to get them. And that stalled the project. It stalled the project for a good 5 months, I want to say, because we had to go look at the logs, and we happened to find them way in Was, of all places, and that's the other end of the island. And when Numgeese found out that we were up there in their territory, and we were dealing with Western Forest Products, you know, they jumped right on it and were like, we're giving these to you guys. You know, they donated those logs, and I think the value of those logs were like $400,000. So that was a big relief. You know, I didn't, you know, stop praising Numgeese for the logs that they donated, and it was a big, huge gesture. And Chief Nick and the chief of Numgeese were in discussions about it, And it was just a really impactful part of the project that I felt that was really, really humbling, because we were in COVID. We were right smack in the middle of COVID, and we couldn't go up there and thank the chief, but, you know, all he wanted was, when you open that place, he's like, I'm coming. So he's eagerly waiting for our big house to open as well. And that's not even it, you know, like, we had a golf tournament that fundraised over 80 grand. And that was a social impact group that reached out to me and said, you know, we know you guys are building this big house, and you know how important it is to your community. We want to help. And I said, well, I know nothing about golf, and I'm supposed to run this tournament. And Christine set the date, and then she left me to run the golf tournament, and I'm still really mad at her about that. But so this group of people came in, you know, and they were from all over. So we had like Cascadia Seaweed, we had Soap for Hope, and, you know, all these different organizations that just came forward, and, you know, all of our staff here that helped make that day possible. And it was just an amazing event, and the overwhelming feeling of raising over $80,000 at a golf tournament of all things, it was just amazing. And then to top it off, we had another lady come forward, and she did a tour with me and JP, and we showed them the big house, and we showed them what it would take to get it done. And it was really interesting because they were asking really in-depth questions that I wasn't sure I was able to answer for them. And I just said, you know, like, this place is going to give so much hope to our elders, our people, and, you know, it's going to make an impact on our kids, because our kids are going to have a place to go now. And, you know, we were having like heart-to-heart talks, and it was really raining out, and we sat in my truck for like 45 minutes, and I was just telling them all these things, right? And she said to me, she looked at me, she said, okay, well, Becky, what is it going to take to finish? How much is it going to cost? And at that time, you know, I was just like firing out numbers to her, and I just said, you know, I think it's going to be about maybe $1.6 million to finish, maybe more, maybe 1.9, I'm not sure. And, you know, I was on the phone with Greg, and I'm like, Greg, I need like a final number. And he was like putting numbers together. And that organization actually came through and donated $2 million for us to finish the big house. So we didn't have to take it from, you know, capital funding, or we didn't have to take it from any programs or any other funding at SAILT. And this lady, you know, she wanted to remain anonymous, and she didn't want her name put out there. But, you know, to have people out there in the community that want this big house for us as much as we do, you know, it just shows that we have a really good community. And that was just before Christmas that news came, and it was really hard for me to not tell people about it. And then it just started getting out there anyways. And so this is the first time that we're actually publicly announcing that. But that was just the cherry on the top, you know, of having this complete stranger come and donate that money for us to finish our big house is, you know, it's just amazing. I couldn't, you know, thank that lady enough and her family. But I was really hoping to have, you know, community input about the opening, because that shouldn't be up to, you know, anybody on their own. We just need support from the community on how you guys want it open, when you guys want it opened. And I've never seen an opening for a big house before, so, you know, I've had talks with Buster a lot of times because he's up there checking on those guys. he was checking on them daily for a while. You know, I'm Buster, I'm from this community, and I told them, I'm like, yeah, Buster's going to be up there. He's going to be checking on you guys and making sure that you guys are, you know, doing your job. So Buster's been, you know, my go-to person. You know, I'd be like, Buster, they're trying to do this, and it was really hard to bring the bill down to the community level, you know, because I actually showed Greg, Christine, and Wayne Sartlip Big House, because they kept, you know, adding in these things and saying we should do this, and I'm like, we don't need a fancy big house, and it ended up being that, but not as fancy as it probably could have been. But when I took them to Sartlip, I'm like, this is Sartlip's big house, and this is all we need. And it was really, really good to work with, you know, this chief and council, because they're very, very supportive, and all of what happened up there, and it's just, you know, such a great project to be a part of. And my first day being back at SAO, you know, that was like the best feeling in the world, is to see our big house come and start the day that I started back here, and to see it finish, and to see our community members working on it. Like, we had so many community members up there, and we had, I think, we had about 11 of our community members up there working, and people are just blown away on the progress. And like I said, I just want some input on how, you know, we should be opening it and when we should be opening it. And I know there's a memorial that's set for the end of October. And, you know, one of the really honoring and greatest feelings that I have about the big house is I get to bring my mom's picture home. You know, I get to bring her home. And that, to me, you know, it made me keep going. It made me push harder. It made me, you know, say no. It made me, you know, say, yeah, we should do this. And to have my mom and my uncle's pictures be, and my cousin's pictures be shown up there, you know, it means a lot to our families, you know. And I just can't give thanks enough to, you know, Greg and Wayne and JP and Mavis and, you know, Chief Harvey and Abe, and, you know, the list can go on the people that help make this happen. And yeah, I just want to hear your guys' input on the opening. And if we're going to have a grand opening for the people who contributed, the people that built it, keep asking if they're going to be invited. So I kind of have a feeling like we should have 2 openings, like maybe one for, you know, our non-members and the people that help make this possible, and then for our community and our neighboring communities, because like Eric said, you know, I get asked that question all the time, when is your big house opening? When is your big house opening? And I'm just like everybody else, I don't know, because I need the support from the community, I need the support from the elders, and to guide me on how that's going to happen. Questions?
Is it done?
It's not done. So we're actually going to be starting the paving of, and that was the other thing. So it wasn't going to be paved, but with the $2 million contribution, we're going to have the whole big house parking lot paved, lit, and the road up to the big house is going to be widened and also paved.
What are the plans for the openings?
Can you go to the microphone, please?
What are the plans for the opening ceremonies and stuff?
That's a question that I wanted to give back to you guys, to give me feedback on how you guys wanted that to happen.
Yeah. I think after all of the main openings are done, I think we'd like to have a main swaikwai with all of our members from the community. I'd like that to be part of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Just to open the house, clean the house, get it ready for our ceremonies. That would be something to consider.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Chika.
Good evening. I just got a suggestion for the opening of our longhouse. And I want to thank you for all your dedication and time and all the work you put into it. And I'm glad about where you got the trees and all the material and all the help. In our old smokehouse down below, before they opened it, the elders had a I don't know what they called him back then, a doctor, come in and feed the poles before we even used it, before we even opened it. The reason why they feed the poles is you took their life from the mountain. Now you got to feed them, put them on our land and show them our way. That was taught down below in the old smokehouse. I remember these teachings. I was honored to be taught by the elders. Salquim, Yayaktan, Lamut. I was honored to be. Every day they came into the door teaching me something about the longhouse, and I kept it here. And that's what we got to do. And I do think you should have two different openings. We got to open it our cultural way. Feed the poles, do the work. You know, our dancers that are going to use it, open it that way. Our basket dance, you know, that one day I went to one, they had all four. They had a feeding of the poles. They had swikwe, they had basket. And the last one to bless the floor was the black dance, because they used the floor too. Just a few suggestions on how we can do this right and give it life again. Feed those poles before we go in. Give it life and tell them. That doctor will tell them what we're going to be using them for. That doctor will tell them why they gave up their life in the mountain to come down here. So those are my suggestions for our longhouse. I've been a teacher up here for about 35 years, and I haven't been in there since COVID. Hard to travel. We're not allowed to travel. But I'd like to see this for our home, to make it honorable and respectable again. And I thank each and every one of you that had a hand in here. It's been a long time. Long time. That is where all the teaching comes out. That is where all the teachings come out in our life. In there's no age limit to learning. In there, you can't say, I'm 19, I'm old enough. I don't have to. Our cultural ways, we're learning every day. So this is what I wanted to suggest. I'm not saying that I know everything and you should do it this way. Just suggestion. Make sure we feed the poles. Have all the ones that are going to work in there do their work to open their floor. because they're all different. Basket dance, black dance, mask, feed the poles, they're all different. Just a little something to think about and something to help you. You know, it's going to be an honor for me to go and watch this. I was honored to pray for breaking the ground that day. I was happy. I had a part in the start of what you were doing today. Heitzka.
Heitzka.
Sorry, I'm short. I'd just like to thank Becky with the hard work. My daughter also works with Wayne's nephew, and they get asked about what happens in that place. When is it going to open? She only can tell them so much, and they're just waiting for it to open too. And so it's awesome. Willie talked about the basket dance. Got to remember those hooks for our basket, because my dad was a big support on the basket dance. We don't want to be last minute people coming. You know, we forget all about that. Mm-hmm. It's going to be our place for our culture. And the other thing I really liked when I was younger, not even initiated in the Longhouse, was the names they had of all our communities that I was explaining to my son as he was an usher for the first time at that last funeral. I said, well, it's just like the Longhouse. There's Saanich, East Saanich, US. And it wasn't until the second day he understood what he was doing, because he doesn't go to the Longhouse. But I told him that's almost the same way as you were hired for the funeral. So again, I'd just like to thank the Sayout First Nations. I also worked for 18 years, walked away. Now I'm out in the community. I've just got my 15-year ticket for Beacon Services, and now I'm with VIA. But you got lots of new faces, and that's good. That shows that you guys are moving on. And I don't come here too often, but I wasn't planning to speak, but that is one question we get asked. I was working 15 years ago when I seen the flames up here. Oh, geez, that was closest I could get is the mailboxes to watch that fire. So again, I know we have a lot of community members that don't belong, but their ancestors belonged. And I understand there was some Mexicans working up there that didn't speak no English. They asked my daughter, what is this place? They said, very powerful. They didn't know what they were working on. And they said, very powerful. So that's how, and Renee also said that too. I talked to Renee many times, and she worked with the Longhouse, but I don't think she actually experienced the Longhouse part. And so I'd just like to acknowledge that I wasn't going to come here, but I had to come and look, see if my sister Jean's here, because I don't want to wait till she gets home to find out what's happening, and it's nice and calm. I've heard before there was lots of yelling and screaming about families, but it's like, ah. But Heitzka again, Heitzka for the good service you guys are doing. And I'll shut up and win a prize now.
Thank you, Pointy.
What time is it?
I'd just like to thank you, Becky, for all the work you've done, and everyone else who's been a part of rebuilding the big house.
I'd just like to thank Willie for all his good suggestions. I agree with all of the ideas Willie came forward. And one thing I thought about was all those new dancers who were in there, if we could think about them to be able to have an evening for them to come back home and dance for the first time. We're gracious enough to have SICOM take all of them in to return, but if there could be a night for all those new dancers who didn't get to return in their home, that's one thing that I would like to suggest. Hitchka.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My Indian name is Sinalquito. I come from Catesy, and I carry my mom's name also, Kwakwaston, that comes from the island. I agree with my dad said. I spent so many years traveling with my Uncle Willie, blessing those poles with feeding them. We also got to remember the fire. We got to feed the fire too. Another one I want to suggest on the second day, or the first day, to have a cultural day just for our people. And I mean it because my grandma really plugged it in our head. Me growing up as a kid, I bet you some of my generation can vouch for that. We don't show off our culture to the people when we bless something. We honor something. That's ours. I know it's such a beautiful thing, but they're going to take it away from us. Right? Because we never can lie to the Spirit. The Spirit will never lie to you. Why do you think people fall down and walk around with casts on their head? Because they got told on. This place is, we got to take it that much serious. We're not here for show. We're not here to be up here. We're here to walk on Mother Earth. Then the next day we can have an open thank you to all the people who had a part on building this. Just for them. But it's just a thank you. That's my suggestion. And on that second day, I'd like, if we could, have all the elders that are gone, like your mom, my grandma, Grandpa Gabe, all the old teachers from all I hear about is them down the beach. Have them a part of this day because they would have loved it just as much as we would. You know as well as I know they'd be behind you, Becky. And they kept you going. I know they did. Right? Not just your mom, but all of them. Because back in our day, when I was growing up a kid, we all helped each other. And we got to get back to that. So let's show them thank you also. Right? We got a lot of good teachers that are gone. A lot of good teachers that are still teaching us because we have to get up and start teaching how they taught us. And this longhouse is feed the poles. When they did Catesy, we had a mass dancer for each pole that was stood up in that house. Because those are, like Dad was saying, they gave up their life. Those are our grandmothers, our grandfathers that gave their life to hold our house together. They're standing there like this and saying thank you. So it's going to be a big ceremony, I know it is. That's the only thing that I remember. Spent a lot of time with Uncle Alfred and Uncle Eric on a lot of people. We always said that we always have to watch and learn. Now I understand now. I really do. So that's a lot of dancers that I don't want to see nobody get hurt. And the doorways. Because you got to bless the doorways, brush the doors before the people come in. Because that's sacred. It's like you just close your eyes and look at a big house. You can see our elders at the door thanking for coming. Come sit. So you got to honor that too. From what I seen growing up as a kid. It is true that my grandma said, you're going to be in this position one day, so you really listen and you watch and you learn. Because one day our people are going to need your input. So just a couple little things that I seen growing up as a kid. The journey that I have been on. And I cherish every moment of it. And I'm going to cherish till the day I die. And I want to leave us. We want to leave something for our kids to look up to bring back to teachings, the rules and regulations of how to be an Indian, Huamu, how we all can come just sit together and be who we are. Thank you, Becky, and all the other people who had a say in a direction with this. It shows, look at it, how beautiful it looks. Be proud of yourself, but be humble at the same time. Because we're always taught to be humble people, not greedy people. I still can't see it enough. We're always like this. Thank you, everybody. Not like this, gimme, gimme, gimme. We're not supposed to be like that. We're supposed to share our words, share our love, share our kindness, and share our tables. That's who we are. So let's share our opening with our people and our people only. Then the next one we can share with everybody who had a lending hand, the workers, the electricians, the cement layers, right? I was proud. I worked for Slags. I dumped so many loads of lumber at that longhouse. As soon as they said built needs an order, I dropped everything and loaded up a truck and away I went. Right? I cried when I first went up. I had a piece of helping them. I'm not sorry, but the guy laughed at me and walked away. And I kind of got mad at him. And I got told on. My mom, I lost my keys after I got mad at him. And I know after I said that, I go, I'm in trouble. 45 minutes, I looked for my keys. Then my mom, I know it was my mom. She shoved them underneath the car seat and I ripped the back of that whole truck apart like 4 times. Mike came over, you all right, Patty? I lost my keys and he's in there looking. Right? So that's how much that place means to me. But I kindly asked him, don't do that again. This is our school. This is really sacred to us. I want you to cherish this place. And now after that was the first time, and every time after that, it was a good visit with them. They walked me around and showed me what they're doing, and I was honored. So thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Hachka Helan, Nistelachas, Aitangan, Tiasnate. I'd just like to thank everybody. Community members. Sayout has an open door policy. Just like our big house up there had an open door policy. And I would really like to just lift my hands up to the community for coming and sharing a meal with us and discussing everything with us. We value your opinions. Natain, Lamlamowit, everybody up and down the island, mainland, states, knew Natain, Lamlamowit. Everybody that knew her worshiped the ground she walked on. And I look at that big house, and that's the feelings that brings back to me how we used to run down to the beach, and we'd be grabbing the sticks for the gowit, banging on the gowit with the sticks when we were children. We were so excited. We were so excited as children to be a part of that. And as we're initiated, family history came up, namings, Jotmuk, Sitla, Sage, Akwiak. Those are the families. This is our family. Every time there's a ceremony, that gets brought up and we get reminded about where we come from South. And I really want to see the working together that I seen as a child when I'd be so excited. Mom, here comes Mary, and here comes Gus. They're all coming to bring stuff. Whenever there was work, we'd hear the cars coming up, and the community members would be bringing bread, food, potatoes, carrots, onions, whatever they could bring, they brought. And those are the memories that we need to cherish. And we need to start learning our language, learning our Indian names, referring to our Indian names while we're in this building or that building. It's important. It was important enough to our parents to have the big ceremony and invite everybody. And we need to be reminded of that daily. And I've known that in the past, it hasn't felt like that. But it's this generation that needs to change it back to the way it used to be. So these young people need to step up too, as we are stepping up. I'd just like to know, let the community members know we value you. You're important to us. Any way we can help. If you can't get an answer from one person in this building, phone another person. If you can't get a hold of me, call me. I know everybody in this building. But that's why we're here. We're here to help you, help yourselves, and help the community. Everybody that's sitting here tonight is important to us. In that big house, there's been so many drug overdoses, alcohol, everything, because we haven't had a healing place for so long. A lot of the parents in this community are scared for their young ones. But once our big house is up and open again, that's going to change. But I'd just like to thank everybody for coming tonight. Thank the cooks. It was an awesome meal. Thank the speakers before me. Everything that was brought up is so important to us, and we couldn't have made this work if it wasn't for you tonight. Haich Kahela.
Thank you.
O siamtana stileta, Haich Kahela ne techo tiatingen. Nes leek, nes cheetes en de quili alle letnings de squels. Haiska, zijn uit squelequins, siam squelequins tiatingen. Ja, so alle letning, de snapanax, was a salchwain. Niesna salchwain. Ja, kwijta, kwijtelijk. My elders gave the message to my brother Eric when they knew they weren't going to be here very long, that we bring out the sea creature masks, and we did that. Belinda and I created the stalmaith. So in order to honor them, we need to use the saihui. they asked Eric, you make sure you rebuild that longhouse. You keep our language going. And bring out those masks. And it's true. When there was a gathering here, it was all of Sayote that contributed. Even the non-Siowan people were there helping. Ever since we were children, as soon as we'd hear the drums, Mom would say, you go down there and help your family. And we'd go down there. We'd peel potatoes, wash dishes, dry the dish towels. We never got paid. We did it because that's the way we were raised, to help. And I shared with my nephew Abraham, we need to be abiding by our Sanchothan customs and values of respect and helping each other. Sayote was just one big family that was always helping each other, and I want to see it be that again. But I'm really glad, like Sandra said, to come here and hear everybody have something to say and have the staff willing to answer questions. You know, I was asking for years, you know, and you shouldn't be scared to sit down with your people. Because, you know, we have every right to be respected and heard. There was no such thing as disrespecting your elders when we were growing up. We were always taught to do that, to help each other. And everybody respected each other. So I'm really glad that we had a good meeting tonight and shared a meal together.
I would just really like to thank you guys again for your input. I probably will set up a few meetings and gather, you know, the community together to figure out the date and stuff for the opening. I just really would like to, again, you know, commend our staff that's here tonight. They work really, really hard for Sayote. And out of all the 4 nations, you know, through COVID, I think Sayote was only closed for a total of 4 weeks. And we have a bunch of new staff, and you know, it's never dull. It's never a dull day here. You know, I could go on and tell stories about, you know, how fun we make our work days. And you know, even having Sandra a part of our staff, you know, she's always telling us, say "Ait squachel" to me, say "Ait quachil" to me, and you know, it brings me back to my mom. And, you know, those teachings of the language, and she's actually going to be teaching us the language here at work. And I really appreciate that. Her and Edie, you know, they're going to start teaching the language. And, yeah, but again, you know, I just really would like to thank you guys for coming and making this a wonderful evening. And I didn't tell everyone my job title here, but I started off as the executive assistant to Wayne when he was a band manager. And then Christine came on So there's a transition that I had to work with Wayne and Christine, and I told Christine that she's not allowed to go anywhere anymore. She's going to be here until she retires. But my title here is the governance admin, so I get to work with the chief and council, and it's been an honor to work with this chief and council because they all have, you know, such a heart for our community, and they work really, really hard for SAOT, and, you know, it shows. You see how much the staff has grown, you see how much activities that we're having, and, you know, we're bringing the community dinners back, and I think that's one of my best memories growing up is coming to the gym for like lunch or dinner or, you know, and just seeing SAOT. Because I was always, you know, one of those people that if anything happened in my family, if anything happened and I needed help, I could go to any one of these families here in SAOT. And I think we're slowly bringing that back, and it shows here tonight how everyone came, had a meal, you know, everyone's happy and everyone's going to leave happy because our big house is done. It's going to be done. And I think that's something really awesome and amazing to celebrate, and it's really good to see you guys. It really is good to see you guys come through those doors again and, you know, put trust into our staff and our chief and council and our band administrator. I just like to raise my hands to the cooks. That was an amazing meal. And as many times as Mantero says she's retiring, she's still in the kitchen. But again, thank you very much.
Well, we have some door prizes. I don't know for what, but some door prizes to deal with here. So I call somebody up that knows something about this.
So the one rule that we had for the door prizes is you actually had to be here to get them. So thank you guys all for staying. I'll just do a name, and Christine will hold up the door prize back there at the registration table. So there's a whole whack of stuff. Are you doing the air conditioner first? Okay, she's doing the air conditioner first.
Willie Thomas. Willie Thomas.
Hello? Hello? I forgot to thank all the staff who stayed here all day and are still here. Hi, Chika.
Prizes.
Oh, she's doing ice.
Okay, next is the ice maker. Bernie Calvo. Portable hammock. Jordy McDermott. Jordy McDermott. Jordy McDermott. Strong again. Vicky Bill. You have to go back there and get it. Is that it? Two-person folding chair for the bone game or canoe races. So me and Squeak can snuggle. Rosalie, Jimmy.
Can I just make a couple more quick comments? I know my grandmother was a really bone game person, and I've heard it over the years. And a couple other elders, they kind of put me up here, and I'm okay with it. But try not to have bone games in the big house, because my grandma was for bone game, but not in the big house. And one thing I heard when I went to the first couple meetings and haven't heard nothing about it, but a big house committee. Please, because to me personally, I think it should be one person from each family, not just one family, where we all have a say on what goes on and how it goes on and when it should go on. So, thank you.
Is that it for the door prizes? No. A bowl set? Gwen Underwood. She left? No. Redrop. Gary Morris Joseph. Not here?
Yeah, he's there.
Oh. Gary Morris Joseph?
Yeah, he's got
Okay.
patio lights.
Patio lights? Sherry Underwood? Gone? Grayson Smith Pelkey. AirPod Pros, oh my God. Next is the AirPod Pros. Kelsey McDermott. No? Not here. Abigail Underwood.
2, 1.
Lawn chair. Janice Harvey. Oh, Janice Harry. No. That's you, Jan. Hey, one more folding chair. Annabelle Mark. Annabelle? That's it. Okay, that's it for our door prizes. Thank everybody for coming. I'd like to ask my Aunt Bernie to come up here and close the meeting with a prayer so we can leave in a good way.
I just wanted to say one more thing, one more last thing. I wanted to put in people's mind, because there's so many young people here, covered lacrosse box. Please, we've been asking for a long time for that covered lacrosse box, and it's still a priority in the community, but it didn't come up, so just keep it in your mind.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for coming today. It's been a long day, 3 o'clock till now, and thank you for those comments. They're very valuable to our administration, our management, our staff, and I'd like to thank our management and staff tonight. And also, I'd like to honor the woman tonight, because they're our strength of the community, and I see that. I see that in this room here, and you know, my mom was she's the one that birthed me, so I look around and I see that around here. So let's honor each other in that respect. Let's go out of this building not talking behind backs and things like that. Let's respect each other. That's all I say. Haiska Siem.
Hey, Auntie Bernie is going to say a closing prayer now.
It's been good to come back to a nice, peaceful general meeting and to hear all the questions, some of the answers, and I think it was good for the community to come together. I wish more people were here and have more interaction to know what's happening in our community. Right now, I thank you, Heavenly Father, for your blessing upon us, and I thank you, Heavenly Father, that you have blessed the people as they attended this meeting. And Lord, that you have blessed the food that we have received and the cooks that have created a great table before us. And we thank you, Lord, that you're going to be with this community as we disperse and as we grow. And we go from transition to transition, Lord, enveloping the old as well as the new. We thank you, Lord, for blessing the people and bless this community. Keep us safe. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Auntie. And thank you all once again for being here. Thank all the staff that presented all their information and answered all the questions from all of the membership that wanted to ask you questions. Thank the Chief and Council for being here and also answering a lot of questions. So I think this has been a very successful AGM. Aish Kasiyam. Aish Kahela.